Can the Fane Ascension F25, A60 and F70 dethrone the legendary V30 guitar speaker, or at least offer a great alternative? Let's find out. So naturally, in this video we're gonna do a speaker shootout and just see how they compare and have some fun. Massive thanks to Fane for sending out the Fane Ascension speakers. I really appreciate it. So this is my second speaker comparison video, and I'm gonna try different methods in videos to come and see what works and what doesn't work and stuff. So in this one I'm gonna try something a little bit different, but we're gonna start out by taking a listen to all the speakers individually, okay? So that you can get an idea of how they all sound without hearing them with the other speakers side by side. I think that's important to get an idea of how, your first impressions are of these speakers. Now let me talk a little bit about the signal chain first. I'm using my Schecter PT Black Ops with the Fishman Fluence open core modern in the bridge on the active voicing through the ENGL Fireball 25 on the lead channel. It's an awesome amplifier. Of course, it's only 25 watts. It does have 6L6s, but it's a great amp for not destroying all my speakers because I'm using a 1x12. So this is going to be fed into my Grossman Fatbox 1x12 cabinet. Love that cabinet so much. That cab is enabling me to do these speaker comparisons, and switching out speakers and stuff is just so easy with that cabinet. If you haven't seen my review of that cabinet, so my dedicated review, check it out up here or down here, by the way, if you're interested. I have 3 mics miking up all the speakers, 2 SM57s and an MD421, the compact version of that microphone. I'm sending those signals into the DAW where I can balance them out individually. I'm not going to do any EQ aside from a simple low cut at around 80 Hertz or so. So the sounds that you're going to be hearing are going to be pretty raw. I don't really want to mess with EQ. There will be some instances where the low end might be a little bit boomy here and there, especially on certain palm muted chords like the 8th fret and stuff. And normally in like a full mix, in a song, I would EQ that a little bit to sort of compensate for those resonant frequencies, but I'm not going to do that right now. I want you to hear the speakers basically un-EQ'd. The only thing that I'm going to do here is balance out the microphones a little bit differently for each speaker whenever necessary. For instance, the MD421 Kompakt is taking care of a lot of the low end and the warmth. And some speakers might be a little bit more hefty in the low end, so in those cases I'm going to lower the level of that microphone. But other than that, I'm not going to change any variables between the speakers. The mics will be on the same positions, the amp will be set to the same settings, and all that good stuff. And by the way, if you want impulse responses of all my speakers, including the speakers in this video, check out my web store in the description below. Okay, first we're gonna start with the baseline speaker, my Celestion Vintage 38 ohm. I love that speaker so much, it always works, so that's why it's a good baseline. You guys are probably all familiar with that speaker, so I felt like I had to include it in this video. And I'm also just stealing that method from good people like the other John Brown. Check out his channel for awesome speaker comparisons, by the way. So let's take a listen to some riffs just with that speaker alone as the baseline. Take a listen. Alright, that sounded great. ENGL amplifiers tend to work really well with V30 speakers anyway. Yeah, and it sounded nice and clear and chunky and tight and all the good stuff basically. Had the nice V30 roar and sounded very upfront in the mids and upper mids. I love the V30, can't go wrong, right? But now let's see what the Fane speakers have to offer in terms of the tone. We're gonna start with the F25. It's a 25 watt speaker, and let's see what the Fane website has to say regarding that speaker, okay? The Ascension F25 is a low wattage 25 watt ceramic magnet guitar speaker with an emphasis on crunch and mid-range presence. A well-balanced driver equally suited to classic rock sounds as it is to jazz, heavy metal or punk. And they say that the tonal character possesses a detailed yet reduced top end that paves the way for super satisfying mid-punch to chords and cut through lead tones without being too sharp or shrill. Clean tones are warm, detailed and not overly bright. So yeah, that sounds pretty promising. Let's take a listen to that speaker. Alright, so that was the Fane Ascension F25. I think it sounded really good there. I'm going to talk more about my thoughts regarding that speaker later in the video, but first let's take a listen to the Ascension A60 and let's see what Fane have to say about that speaker. The Fane Ascension A60 is a 12-inch 60-watt classic Alnico driver. While its stunningly simple old-school visual statement will elicit an instant smile, you will find yourself unprepared for the sonic impact about to be experienced. That sounds promising. The key word here is balance. Every note and harmonic will immediately sound like it has been perfectly expressed. Providing a refined tonal flavor of the Ascension F70, which we'll get to later, the A60's detailed shimmering top end is never pointed and harsh. Its clear, distinct low end, coupled with the characteristic Fane vocal mid-range, will present the player with an entirely renewed appreciation of harmonic structure. Designed specifically to reveal all the subtle nuance of a finely crafted tube amplifier, the A60 is tailor-made for guitar players looking to explore new sonic territory while enhancing an amplifier's signature voice. Gotta love those descriptions, right? Anyway, let's take a listen to the A60. Alright, that also sounded pretty good. Now let's check out the Ascension F70, and again, let's see what the website has to say about that speaker. The 12-inch 70-watt ceramic magnet Ascension F70 represents the evolution of a classic tone guitar speaker for players looking for a fresh point of reference. Promising to be the new most talked about speaker in a generation, with its unique ability to enhance the performance of clean low-gain amplifiers and high-gain shred machines alike. It is just as at home in a classic rear-mounted 4x12 as it is in a modern front-mounted application. The F70 offers a stunningly detailed top end, rich mid-range, and warm low end with an intricate three-dimensional vintage crunch. The beauty of the F70 is that you need not even change your amplifier settings to appreciate its ability to articulate delicate passages or manage pummeling abuse with ease. Whether your application is a head and a cab or an open back combo, the F70 most definitely adds a welcome new dimension to existing rigs. Sounds very promising once again. Let's take a listen to the F70. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I thought that all four speakers sounded excellent in their own way. Now let's do some A-B comparisons and see how they compare against the V30. So I'm going to do individual comparisons of the V30 versus each Fane. We're going to start with the V30 versus the F25 Ascension. And again, same settings, same amplifier, and all that good stuff. Let's take a listen. Great. So I love the F25 a lot. As they described, it's a bit smoother in the top end. I really love how full the mids are. So this is a great speaker to pair with classic amplifiers. Great for leads, also great for rhythms. I love the smoothness of it. It's not too different from the V30. It's a little bit less aggressive, but it sits really well in the mix, and it does leave some nice room for the overheads and all that stuff. So this is a winner, definitely. It's only 25 watts, so I need to be careful with that speaker when I pair it with, you know, high wattage amplifiers. But yeah, I like it a lot. Now let's compare the V30 directly to the A60. So yeah, this one is going to sound a little bit different. Take a listen. Really nice. So that speaker sounds quite heavy in comparison to the V30. It's a little bit more scooped and the bottom end is quite huge. So especially for this speaker, I had to lower the level of the MD421 Kompakt quite a bit because the low end was really heavy. And that's cool. And that means that I can pair that speaker really well with low wattage amplifiers, say a 15 watt EL84 amplifier that may need a little bit more oomph, if you know what I mean. But yeah, the top end is detailed, definitely not harsh. It sits in the mix really well. So I enjoyed this speaker quite well. It sounds quite different than the F25. Now let's move on to the F70, a 70 watt speaker obviously, and let's see how the V30 compares to this one. Really nice. F70 definitely sounds great. It sounds massive. It has a great presence in the top. Maybe it's even more bright than the V30 in some areas. And the mid-range, again, is quite outspoken. It sits in the guitar frequency range really well. And I think that this one especially is a very good contender for the V30 in my opinion. It sounds massive, and they all sound great, to be honest. Now, of course, I'd love to know your thoughts about these speakers. In my opinion, they all have great qualities to offer. They all sound great. The F25 is a bit warm and nice and tight sounding and fits the mix really well. The A60 sounds quite massive and a little bit scooped, great for really chunky riffage. And then the F70 sounds massive, but quite balanced as well and sits in the mix really well with a pronounced top end and a great mid-range. So especially that one, as I said, is a good contender for the V30. But I think they all are in their own ways. If you want to get a taste of how these speakers sound with your modeler or your reactive load, definitely check out my IRs, which I'll post links to in the description. Now, can these Fane Ascension speakers beat the V30? Perhaps they can. Yeah, I mean, as you heard, they sound great in the mix and they don't sound worse or anything like that. It's just different flavors. You know, I think that if you're in a band with two guitarists and one of you is playing V30s, then it would be great to use one of these speaker types to complement the other guitarist so that you both have your own space in the mix, if you will. I think that these speakers will offer a great use for applications like that, let alone just using them on your own because they just sound rich and detailed and pleasant in the mids. Anyway, definitely let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Please also hit the like and subscribe buttons down below, as that really helps the channel out. I'd really appreciate it. You can also buy something at my affiliate links, perhaps one of these Fane speakers. That really helps the channel out as well. I'd really appreciate that. And of course, you can also follow Sonic Drive Studio on Facebook and Instagram. And I'm also looking to do many more speaker comparisons in the future. I've amassed quite a bit of speakers already back there, and I'm really looking forward to it. So stay tuned for that, and I hope to see you guys soon. Cheers!